Okay. Arch nemesis number 1, smutgrass. All right, we have 2 species in Florida. Mainly now in this part of the state, giant smutgrass is most prevalent. If you remember small smutgrass, this was the seed head on small smutgrass. The seeds were actually pressed on the panicle, so it looked more like a complete spike. In giant smutgrass, the panicles are more open and spreading. So, Velpar, talked about this earlier, is the only herbicide we have. It must be applied during the rainy season, but there's a caveat to that. You can't have 6 inches of rain within 2 weeks of application, where it's going.
Hard to do in the rainy season.
I know. I can't tell you how frustrated I've been in the past 2 years, like everybody else. So, yeah, usually about an inch of rainfall, 2 inches is pretty good. You start getting to 3 inches, you start seeing the activity decline. Just looked at a pasture about a month ago in Wauchula. They had applied 2 months before, and the smutgrass is starting to turn around and grow again. And went through the rainfall records, and they had just over 3 inches within 7 days of application. And it was enough to wash the herbicide out of the root zone. So we're going to talk about this in the field as well, but I wanted to go through some of the experiments we've done in the past few years. And this was one of my former students' research project. She did her PhD work on, and 3 field experiments I'm going to go through. This first one we called our renovation study. We compared Velpar at 2 quarts per acre, followed by a quart per acre a year after, versus complete renovation of a pasture, followed by a quart per acre, versus fall roller chopping, followed by a quart per acre the following year. Our intention was with this fall roller chopping treatment was to spray or to plant annual ryegrass in the fall, but it didn't establish well at all, so we didn't even worry about that the following year. So this is actually 2 years of 2 sites of data. And in 2008, before we started the study, we had about 3 plants per square meter. 2009, after the first application of hexazinone, we had less than half of a plant per square meter. And both the hexazinone or the Velpar treatment and the fall roller chopping treatment. This shocked me. I didn't expect the smutgrass population to decline as much as it did just from fall roller chopping. But I think what we did is we got those clumps out of the ground. They desiccated during the dry season, and they didn't have a chance the next year. But boy, where we renovated, the smutgrass came in and doubled the population that we had initially. All right. But what was really cool is when we came back with that second application of quart per acre, we further decreased our smutgrass population in the full rate, followed by the quart, but we really dropped our renovation plots. So that was really neat for me, because I feel like if we go into a pasture that's 80 to 90% smutgrass right now, and we renovate it, and we come back the following growing season and go out with this quart rate, that maybe we have a management plan that we can finally go after and get our smutgrass populations under control. But what we noticed, if we leave this alone, don't spray anymore after 2009, our populations do start to increase over time, but even more so in the renovation plots. And it seems like without that second without a second application of Velpar the following year, their densities continue to increase. Okay? And let me go to the next one. This was a fertility study. We went out in 2008 and applied 2 quarts to the acre across the whole study area. Then in 2009, we came in with Velpar at a quart with and without nitrogen versus no Velpar with and without nitrogen. Now, we had about 2 plants per square meter at the beginning of the study. Just applying Velpar to the whole pasture dropped it to almost nothing the year after. So it really didn't change all that much in 2010, but in 2011, we did start to see an increase in the number of plants, especially when we had no additional Velpar and no nitrogen. So I feel like fertility is also going to be important here as well. Then our third study, which got even a little bit more complicated, but let's just focus on the yellow for right now. Basically what we did here is we went out in 2008 with a half rate, 3/4 rate, and a full rate of Velpar. And then we followed each of those treatments the second year with a half rate and a 3/4 rate. And what's interesting to me is you take a quart rate followed by quart rate. It's no different than going with a full rate followed by nothing 2 years out. Okay?
Cost
Now-
of application,
I'm sorry?
except for the cost of application.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same.
Well,
Okay.
not if you do it for just once with the full rate.
True. That's the only thing that gets you is the application cost. But still, if you're going to go with this program and follow this for 2 years and maybe even do it a third year versus one, and your population starts to increase over the years, then I almost feel like this approach is more beneficial than this approach. Especially if you get 8 inches of rain within a week. Because here you've lost $40 an acre versus $20. You don't want to lose either, but you know this is a lot easier to stomach than $40 an acre. All right. I meant to update this before I put this together because we have another year of data that's not included in here. So if we went out and at 36 months, this number actually started to increase. This number here stayed the same, and it was comparable to this. So if you want to go 3 years out without doing anything, you almost have to use the half rate followed by the 3/4 rate to get equivalent of this. All right, so what's best? Boy, I wish I had that answer. Because I've been so frustrated in my plots the last 2 years, I don't know which direction to go in. So I think I have just as much frustration with Velpar and Smutgrass control as every rancher in the state does. All right?
Brent, I'd ask a question right there on what's best. Looking at the economics of it, is it best just to not do anything and just take that money and supplement the cow?
That's a good question. I want to work with Christopher Batt on that and see what, you know.
That's essentially what we started doing. We couldn't control it, so we started managing it. We just use a year-round protein supplement and raise it.
You burn it out.
We try to burn when we can. We bush hog it once a year. So, you know, we get acceptable conception rates with it and weaning weights. Actually, Aaron's in this here to ask this question. And it's not, we were asked this question, now it might seem off the wall, but has there ever been any talk about researching smutgrass and the palatability of it, creating a species that was just more palatable? Because we all know it grows great.
It has high protein.
And it's good.
All right. So, protein values, digestibility, burning, mowing, increase that for about 3 weeks. If you don't keep something on it grazed down, it drops quicker than the hay grass digestibility does. So, nutrition-wise, it's just as good as the hay grass. Now, maybe we need to start managing for smutgrass growth and it will go away. You know? But seriously, nobody's in their right mind is going to look at that because it's an invasive species. So it won't go anywhere, even if something is developed, unless it's sterile. That would be the only one. Kind of like the mulatto hybrid area. So, to my knowledge, nobody is looking at that. I don't have enough hair to do that. So, yeah, I doubt that.
Is it considered an invasive species then?
It is. Yes. There's a little dilemma with that, though. So we're trying to work with the Florida Exotic Pest Plant Council to get it added to their invasive list. Once that happens, then there should be potential funding available to help manage that. So we're working with that group, we're trying to document smutgrass invasion in natural areas as well. So if anybody has pictures of smutgrass in rangeland or natural areas, that would help us tremendously.
What you're saying, I mean, somebody like Alex can't because they got such a magnitude of land, but smaller areas, maybe constant mowing and stuff, cattle will, find value to their TDN, in smaller plots and stuff like that would be a value rather than going in and using Belpar ever go around. Mowing or burning or.
Mowing, burning, mob grazing, all those things help. And what you end up doing, instead of having a clump like this out there, you get a clump like this. Go look at hay fields that are cut, 2, 3, 4 times a year. Do they have smutgrass in them? Though a lot of times they'll tell you no. If you go out and let it grow and leave it alone for 6 weeks, you'll finally start seeing seed heads pop up. So it's there, but you don't notice it because it's not rocking the truck or the tractor when you're driving over it.
My yard gets mowed every week, and if I don't mow it for a couple weeks, there's smutgrass clumps that pop back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How often does it seed?
How often does it seed? It starts sending up seed stalks as early as May. And if you leave it alone, that plant will shatter and will be happy. If you mow it off, it sends up more seed stalks. Yeah. So it basically continuously produces seed from May through October. And small smutgrass, they know it produces around 45,000 seeds per month. Giant smutgrass, nobody's got the patience to count those seeds. It's not in my program.
Which is the better of the two? If you had to have one, which one would you have?
Of the two varieties? No,
Which one's easier to control?
well, there's really no difference. We've looked at that too. There's no difference in what rate you need to control either species. About burning? Burning will decrease the clump size. It'll make it so the cattle will want to graze it a little bit more. But once you pull the cattle off, oh, what about the seeds? I see your question. Burning generally promotes seed germination. So if you planned on a herbicide program, I think an early spring burning would be beneficial because you'll get some of those seeds to germinate and help control some of the seeds that are in seed bank.
The ballpark cost,
Chop in the fall, spring burn it, and then herbicide.
that sounds expensive.
When you say chop, you mean chopper, aerator, I mean, you talking about those?
We use choppers.
Okay.
I think using aerated.
Okay.
I don't think the difference would be that huge. As long as you're able to get close, or go.
If the ballpark costs half as much as it does, they wouldn't be able to make it happen.
I've talked to them about it. But they're not budging. There's so much of it used in forestry site prep,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be budged. Okay. Any other questions?